I know people are starting to join us. It's 3:03, so I wanted to get started on time out of respect of everyone's schedules, and of course Denise's schedule as well. So welcome everybody. Welcome to our webinar series, Hindsight is 2020. And we're really excited. We've made it into series 3, which is talking about our employees. So if you joined us last Monday, you heard us talk to recruiter from Hutchinson Consulting, Karen Spiegel Butler, which was an amazing conversation. And Denise, I think you were on that call as well, just kind of listening in. And so our idea of bringing this Hindsight is 2020 webinar series is to give you the building blocks to rebuild your business again. And thinking about, I don't know about you, but I always say, well, hindsight's 2020, you know, when we're making a move or a shift or a pivot. So I think a lot of people say that, and I want to give our audience something different other than our normal conversation these days, which are, you know, reopening, PPE, our new world with COVID and how we're going to open and all of that, but go back to business fundamentals that a lot of our spas could use and help them figure out the things that they wanted to change. If they were to say, okay, I'm going to open a new spa today, or I'm going to restart my brand today, what could I have done differently that I learned through the hindsight of the last 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? You know, many people that join the call have been in business for a long time, been in our industry for a long time, and we've all been given this opportunity to start over again and fresh and make some changes. So I think this is a really important topic. So we talked about hiring rock star staff and how we recruit and onboard them. I am excited to have Denise Fuller here today. If you don't know Denise, she's the founder of NASNPRO, but she's been in the industry for what, 25, 26 years?
I'm going on 26 years.
Yep. And she's done a lot of different things prior to NASNPRO. And, you know, her philosophy and her mission is just like ours here in the Spa Hive, which is to bring the best resources and education and tools to her organization and her members. How many members do you have now, Denise?
We've grown to almost 30,000.
30,000 members, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. Wow. And NASNPRO, you've been doing this for how many years now with NASNPRO?
We started in 2004 with 12 estheticians at the International School of Beauty in Daytona Beach. So Mez Verrill, the owner, opened up one of his rooms to myself and Janet McCormick, and 12 people showed up, 12 estheticians, no vendors, and it was a round table discussion, which I think, you know, if we flash forward, hindsight 2020, now looking into what we're talking about, think about how wonderful it would be just to meet with 12 estheticians or 12 spa owners right now. It'd be lovely to have that roundtable discussion.
Right, exactly. And for those of you that don't know NASNPRO, it's the National Aesthetic Spa Network, right?
You're correct. Yes.
I wanted to make sure I got it right. So we're going to talk to Denise, because Denise, tell us a little bit more about your background. So before, you know, creating this amazing group of professionals that can really, you know, help each other out, tell us all about, you know, a little bit of earlier of your career, because I know it, but I'm not sure everybody else knows it.
Well, absolutely. I am a licensed esthetician by trade. I also have a nail technician license. I would not want me to paint anyone's nails right now. It would be pretty sad. I've taught aesthetics around the world. I have been on television, been interviewed for acne and various things. I was also the editor-in-chief, the first esthetician editor-in-chief for L&E in the United States. And I love education, and that's just the foundation of what we do. I mean, I believe that every esthetician, every therapist has to have that special touch. You can't, even if you're in a medical setting, you can't just work like a robot. But at the end of the day, no matter how long you've been in this industry, it comes down to you have to hone in your skills, and that skill set changes. What I was doing 20 years ago, when I first started at PGA National Resort and Spa, we didn't wear gloves when we waxed.
Mm-hmm.
The only time we wore gloves was when we did extractions. That
Yeah.
was it. And we never asked any questions. So we were doing chemical peels and body treatments with barely even asking if the client was pregnant.
Right.
So, and now look at, again, flash forward to 2020, and now we have a whole new slew of questions, and we've implemented protocols, and now every therapist is wearing a PPEs and, putting up shields and just different things. So it's always evolving, and we have to stay current. We cannot look back 20 years ago and say, well, that was good. It's a foundation block, and when you have a great foundation, your house or your business or your career is going to be strong to, again, be able to pivot and launch if need to.
Right. And so let's get into the conversation. We're going to chat with Denise for about 45 minutes. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate, drop them in the chat. I'm going to be managing the chat, and Marianne's on as usual. However, this probably will be her last webinar today before she has her baby. But for now, she's here, thank goodness, to help me limp along. So please enter your questions. And so we wanted to talk about, so we've hired a great staff.
Yeah.
And we feel really good about our new hires. We're taking this opportunity post-COVID to make sure that we're putting adequate training in place, goals so that people sell retail, all of the things. We hired any staff that we needed, and we took the opportunity to maybe not invite back some of the staff members that weren't super good for our business, and replaced them with rock stars. So now the next step is, how do we keep our staff engaged? And how do we keep them motivated and loyal? So my first question is, do you think that there are some habits of a good leader? So my philosophy sort of is, it trickles down from the top.
Yep, I agree.
And so however we're leading, whether it's consciously or unconsciously, that trickles right down to our team. So what are some things that we can do that helps as a leader, that helps us lead our teams?
Well, one of the things is, as a leader, I would make certain that you have a coach or a mentor yourself, so that you can have some benchmarks. I know that there's some things that as a leader you go through personally, you don't need to be sharing with your staff. And I know our staff, we do become very close and become family members, but we still need to remember this is a business, and they may not necessarily need to know the financials. They may not need to know if maybe the husband is working in the spa, maybe he's the COO, maybe they don't need to know that there's some dissension or possibly a divorce going on. So, again, having a good sounding board, either as a mentor or as a coach, someone that you can trust. Maybe you need to go to church and that be a pastor or a priest, but sometimes they don't always give you the best business advice, but sometimes you just need to get off your chest. So first and foremost, watch your words. be careful, what you say. It does make an impact. If you come in, and trust me, your staff watches you from the moment you get out of your car door. And if you're slamming that door and come in and huffing and puffing, that just sets the entire tone and energy for the day.
I think that's great. And also for the spa owners out there, it's funny, this is not right. And I'm not saying that it's right, but we have to be careful our closeness with the team, because a lot of times, you'll drive up in your, Mercedes or BMW, and you're kind of not letting them in. It's like higher level, which is great. But then there's the perception that you're making all the money.
Yes.
And they're making nothing.
Right.
And I know, and Denise knows, and everyone on the call knows that is a wrong perception. And so it's really important, because I've met a lot of managers that want to be, friends and directors or bosses, owners, and that's really, really difficult, because a lot of times if you let an employee, too deep in personally, that could bite you on the other side.
Right.
In the end. So just being really careful with that. And as Denise said, leading by example, which is great, because, it's so much different. I can remember when I was, first worked in a spa, and, not being negative at all. But our spa director, would come in at 8, leave by 4, never was picking up, just, it was a different vibe. It was a very different vibe. And there was other people, there were other managers, there was an operations manager and treatment leads. And so they were expected to do everything else. And this director was very high level. However, you didn't get a lot of buy-in, when you don't see your manager, walk by, like we learned at Four Seasons, if you walk by a piece of paper on the floor, you have to pick it up.
Absolutely.
Versus, I know, like my very next manager, if the toilets had to be scrubbed, but she was in there scrubbing the toilets. And that, I feel like, really helps to create the teamwork environment. Do you agree? Just by example.
Absolutely. I mean, and my daughters, often I have a 25 and a 17-year-old daughter, and they travel with me to NASNPRO events. And they've done the front desk and checking in. And there was one time, and again, Rachel's my youngest, she's the baby, and I think she was maybe 14, and someone had asked her a question about maybe where the restroom, and I can't remember what it was, but she basically pointed and said, "Oh, down the hall and to your left." And I quickly stepped in. I said, "You know what, we're going to walk her to where she needs to go." And that way, just in case she gets lost. And then afterwards, we took the attendee to where she was needing to. And I took Rachel aside and I told her, I said, in business, it doesn't matter if you're at the Four Seasons or working at Motel 6 or Taco Bell. Don't just point. Go above and beyond. Even if your manager or Taco Bell doesn't expect you to, your client is going to appreciate, "Here, let me take you." So, and one of my vendors saw that I had done that, and they said, "Wow, you are really teaching your daughters how to work, not just in a spa," which my oldest daughter wound up being a manager at a spa in Florida. And the owner was like, "I can tell you that she is your daughter. You have done her well." And I
love it.
Before she took the job, I also told her, "I don't care if you quit how many jobs in a restaurant, you're in the spa industry, you cannot embarrass me. I will kill you."
I love it.
And then last summer, my youngest daughter again worked at that spa, and it was interesting because Amber did the same exact speech to her little sister. "If you embarrass me, if you do something wrong, I'm going to kill you. I know where you think." So, but you do have to lead by example.
Right.
And I think right now it's a little bit interesting times, because we have certain states that are in the process, they've already opened. If we look at Georgia, if we look at Florida, they are rocking and rolling.
Mm-hmm.
You may look at New York, New Jersey, California. They are in the midst of reopening, or hopefully going to be reopening. So for the states that are already open and they've been working maybe 4-6 weeks, this is the time to take your team and really kind of do that mental checkup. They've been thrown in the trenches and they've just had to go and try to catch up with all of their clientele. So now that maybe you've been able to take a little bit of a breath, check in on them, make certain that they're not coming in fatigued emotionally, physically, because you want to keep their immune system up and going. For those that haven't opened up yet, before you open up, do a pre-check. Maybe have some friends that do almost like a COVID boot camp to make sure. And I think that's, from talking to my members in Florida and Georgia, they their state just opened up and they weren't quite ready.
No preparation, right.
No preparation. And some spas kept in contact with their employees weekly or every 2 weeks, and we're doing Zoom education, which was fabulous. So they were ready to go, but others not. So if you're in one of the states that haven't opened up yet, I would strongly suggest that you take your employees. If you're going to have the clients call in, have them go out to the parking lot, call in or text that I'm here, and see it from the client's point of view, everything that you're going to be doing. And you will find out that you might have missed a few things, such as, oh, we still have magazines out. What happens if that client comes in and says, I'm not wearing a mask? Then what? These are some of the discussions that we need to have.
Right. Yeah, I saw that, over the weekend, I think in one of the, the Facebook communities that we're in, and someone said, the client said, I don't care how great you are, they're in the parking lot, I'm not going to sit in the parking lot. I'm not going to text. I'm not going to wear a mask. I'm not going to do all this stuff, and walked out. And it leaves you reeling with, what do I do? Did I do the right thing? Did I follow the right guidelines? And, and I think just, we've talked about these things before, but talking about, knowing the right thing for you and the right thing for your business. And it's not one size fits all, cookie cutter. It's just knowing what the right fit for your own business is, and leading your staff through that, as a very confident leader that gives them the feeling of security, because they're all tied up in knots inside and scared too. So leading them through, and if a client, that happens, it happens, and it may happen. And you just have to have a strong conviction that your own mission and values of your business, and staying really true to that. I mean, my suggestion to this person was to just write a handwritten note, especially if it was a long-term, long-standing client, just a nice heartfelt note, not apologizing for your position, but really saying, that you apologize that it made the guest feel uncomfortable. And the reason why you did it is for the safety of your team and your guests, and hope that they consider coming back in the future because you value them as a guest. Just a short, quick, handwritten note. And, maybe you'll save the guest, maybe you won't.
Right. Well, and I also think that we need to make certain that our expectations of what we're implementing, the guests know. Is it on the door? Did they get a text message? So when you're doing those reminder phone calls or text messages about appointments, put that in there. You will be, just so you know, this is step 1, text us when you get. I mean, almost every physician I know, they're implementing those. Even the groomer is implementing.
Yeah, right.
So, we do have to, so those are things, and you need to, again, do that role play with your staff so that they don't get, okay, Mrs. Jones, I'll just take you and don't tell anyone. Well, that's not the answer. It needs to be consistent.
Right. Consistency is key. Absolutely. So Denise, what do you find are some things that our teams find important to them as employees? And now do you think going in post-COVID has their items of importance changed at all?
I think from some of the managers and the spa directors that I've spoke to, some of the challenges have had some of their staff hasn't wanted to come back because they're on unemployment and they're making more money. So that's been a little bit of a challenge. And, you know, as a business owner, if you can only pay your reception $10 or $15 an hour, that may be. So if you're the owner or the manager, again, maybe need to step up and work some extra hours or take on the front desk. So I do know that finances, as with everyone right now, they're all looking at ways to stretch their budget. The other thing I'm hearing, or the aspect I'm hearing, is what do we do with our kids?
Right.
So I know one salon, they've actually, because they're all working together, they're actually going, and so Mary Ann works on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Mary Ann takes Julie's kids on Monday, Wednesday, or on Tuesday and Thursday, and they're flip-flopping to help each other out. So again, it depends on where you're working, if that's a doable. You know, maybe there's no grandma, maybe there's auntie that aren't around. Right. And so the team has gotten together and said, let's work together. We're all in this. We all need to make money. And if you can take my kid on Monday, I'll take your kid on Tuesday, and vice versa. So that's one option. I think, you know, again, you have to do that checkup to see where your team is and what feasibly you can offer. I know one manager, she is actually going to the various food banks once a week and grabbing a couple boxes and then bringing them to the spa just so that they'll help stretch the dollar. And at first I was like, really? I'm like, well, isn't that, I mean, I don't want to be disrespectful, but isn't that really for the impoverished? And she goes, honestly, Denise, the way it's working is that the government is purchasing the food from the farms or the dairies so that when they can give it to the charities. So if the charities don't have it, or if they have a surplus and they're not giving out, they're not going to do the order from the food, the dairy, or so you're just helping your community. I didn't know that. I thought that was really interesting. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, you're really thinking outside the box. And I'm like, and she's like, Denise, I know my kids. I know my team. She's a little bit older. She said kids. She's like, I know my team. And she's like, I'm just trying every which way that I can help them because they've been without for so long. And she's like, the other thing I'm really making certain is their health checkup, so that if somebody if they don't feel good, that they don't feel like they have to work. She goes, we all need to stay healthy. She's like, I'm being very cognizant of the schedule, not overworking people, and also making certain that, you know, they're staying healthy to keep our clients healthy.
Right, exactly. And so how do you feel we can keep our staff motivated when maybe we've decided not to open right away? Like as soon as the state said go. So I think you and I talked about this last week. You know, I was saying that, you know, I've had clients and on our coffee chats and things, you know, people that are hesitant to open on the very first day that the state can open, not feeling prepared, having teams that aren't feeling prepared. But we want to keep them motivated even if they're at home, and even motivated to come back when we are ready to come back. Any tips on, you know, how to keep your staff engaged and motivated and keeping good touch with them, you know, pre-reopening?
I mean, I do love the fact when you can have your team involved in making phone calls. I know some owners might go, oh, well, that's my list. I'm uncomfortable with that. However, the more you can stay engaged with your clients, the more 9 times out of 10, they're going to be returning.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that you do have to be cognizant and respectful. If people don't feel ready to open, that's okay too. You know, I mean, they may not have. I spoke to one owner and she had donated all her PPEs to a local hospital. And she's like, I don't even have enough to open. So
Right.
I think, you know, again, it really depends upon your circumstance. But if the team isn't feeling like they want to open up yet, then make certain that your clients know that, you know, and I think that's where it's most important, having that communication with your clients, saying, look, we're just taking a little bit more extra precaution, a little bit more extra time. We've gotten, you know, we've ordered this, or we're asking this cleaning company to come in and, you know, check our HVAC and clean our ducts. And, you know, we've replaced carpets and rugs. You know, our rugs we've had for 12 years, well, whatever the narrative is, you know, so that the reason why you're just pausing a little bit extra, let them know it's because we love you as a client and we want to make certain that this is a safe and sanitized place.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and I guess we can't overly communication, you know, how important it is to stay in contact with your guests and your employees as you're working through this and getting the employees buy-in, staying in close contact with them. We had somebody on Coffee Chat, Betty, and I forget what she called it. Miriam, maybe you can text me if you remember what it is, but she was doing every night, she was doing an inspirational email to her team. And, you know, maybe she has a team of 25, let's say it's a resort. So let's say 25 to 30. I think it was the circle of caring. Anyway, so Marianne said circle of something. Yeah, circle of caring. And yeah, and it was great because, you know, she would think of something every day to send to the team. And it doesn't mean that they're reading it every day. You know, some people, you know, might not read it. Some people might be waiting for it, you know, so we just don't know. But, you know, every day she was sending out just a little bit of care to her team to see how they were, check on them personally. And it was every single evening throughout all of this. And she would send updated information that she would find and resources and links to webinars and just really trying to keep them in the loop. And then, of course, encouraging words. And a lot would email her back and trying to keep them really engaged. So I do feel, yeah, I mean, we talk about, you know, as great managers, we have to, and great leaders, over communicate, you know, with our staff and our guests. I find very rarely do you get a disgruntled employee or a disgruntled guest if you and your team are over communicating. Very few times does the guest come back and say, I didn't know that, it wasn't the way that I expected. Even the little things, just over communicating that to them. And so Denise, do you find, are there any ways that you know of to inspire loyalty within our teams? How do we build a loyal team?
You know, I mean, sometimes it's a hard issue with the person. It doesn't matter what you do, they're not going to be loyal. And you know, that's just an unfortunate case of, you know, working with humans. But if we can do our best, and I think most managers, spa owners, directors, you know, they really have a compassionate heart and they want to build a team up and do as much as they can and to support. I do think that leaders need to be really aware of their team, you know, just paying attention, you know. I mean, I know we start off with don't talk about too much of your own personal However, we've got to know whether our team is having a personal issue,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're going through a divorce. Is that ex-husband going to be violent? Do we need to implement some safety measures into our new way of thinking or our new way of doing spa? So you have to really know your team and those personal. So sometimes it doesn't always work both ways. You've got to lead and not share always.
Right.
But sometimes it's good to share.
And you want them to share.
Right. And then sometimes they overshare and you're like,
no, that never happens.
no. But I mean, there's always ways, making certain that there's goals. I'm a goal person. I mean, if you tell me that we need to bring in $30,000, in retail sales this month, and if I make that benchmark, I'm going to get this much for my commission, I work it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think having clear, precise protocols, procedures, and, goals for your team does build it, because that way your team doesn't walk away going, well, I thought I was going to get this, but then I didn't.
Right.
My salary was going to be this, and that didn't happen.
Right.
And I think when you're working in a larger resort, protocols and procedures they already have them. If you're working for the Ritz-Carlton, you know that every year you're going to have an evaluation as a team member, and more than likely you're going to get your raise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. And what would you say if we're talking to the leaders on, listening to our webinar today? So the spa owners and directors, what are maybe some tangible items that they could implement with their teams today? So they may not be open today.
Okay.
So if they are open, I think one of the great tangible items is, following up with the mental health check after you've been open for several weeks. I think that's a great tangible item for a lot of the spas that are in our community. They're based in the Northeast, and, we're not really open yet. I think there are some spas opening this week, a lot of spas opening this week. Some spas have chosen not to open. So if you're going into opening, what are some real, 3 things that you can implement today that's you think's going to, help create a better work environment for your team?
I think, your first one, doing a mental health check. I think that is so important right now. It's going to be really draining. And I mean, we can tell our clients not to talk, but they've been in isolation for 3 months and they're going to care. So some are going to have a great story, some are not. So we're going to have to implement, having that mental health checkup, but then also having wellness. Maybe we can have a night of a community acupuncturist come in, because we haven't been working. We haven't been hustling for 3 months. Now suddenly we're going to work 8 hours and see 45 clients. And then what? Okay.
Right. That's a good point.
So can you bring someone in? Can you do guided meditation? Can you maybe call another spa and say, hey, can we switch? We'll work on your team and you can work on our team. Or maybe someone
do like a trade.
Do a trade. Is there any salt rooms or salt caves that you as your team can go? Let's do a field trip together. Mm-hmm. And I think, right now we need to really appreciate each other for the gifts, the talents that they have, and just knowing you are so important in our team is going to be so important. Not just, okay, here's your client list for the day. See you at 5 o'clock or see you at 9 o'clock.
Right. And don't forget to sell retail to every client.
That's right. and rebook that client.
Right, and rebook them, exactly. And we'll see you later.
Right. So I think that, you do have to, and again, it comes down to those leader. And I love what that term, servant leadership.
Yeah, I love that.
You serve your guests, but you also serve your team and your employees. And when you do that, that golden rule, treat people like you would want to be treated yourself. Keep it simple. But if you do that, you will have a rock star team and a rock star business.
Right, exactly. And so we have a few more minutes with Denise because she had to cut out today at 3:45. So if you have any questions, drop them now. Now is your chance to drop them into the chat. And Denise, let's talk a little bit about, before we end, talk about community and the importance of a community. I mean, you and I both, value the relationships and importance of having a community here in the Spa Hive and with your community at NASNPRO. Talk about a little bit why you created NASNPRO, a little bit about what your events are about. We have, we have, Denise has an event coming up in Boston, which is now moved to October. So that's going to be super exciting for, our New England-based clients and vendors. But talk about the importance of community, what NASNPRO means, what it offers to its members, and why it's so important for us to work together.
Absolutely. Well, if you look at the word community, there's a very special word. It's called unity. And it doesn't matter what side, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, okay? As our community, our goal is to help our clients, help our therapists, help our spa owners be successful in their career and in their business. So if I can do that for someone else, because so many people in my 26 years have helped, mentored, and taught me things. I didn't just open up a book and go, okay, I'm all, I know everything. It has been a journey. So right. As our community, we're learning from each other. We're growing. Some of us are being stretched right now as we grow and have to learn how to pivot. And then connecting. And if we can create those lifelong connections, again, whether it be with our vendors, whether it be with a fellow spa owner or esthetician, we have made our industry and our community stronger.
That's awesome. And is there a cost to join NASNPRO?
Nope, it is free. And it's been free since day one.
And tell us a little bit about some of the benefits.
Well, when we first started this, it was very grassroots, and people would ask me, how do I become a member? And I would tell them, raise your right hand and say, I love NASN. Okay, you're a member. And they'd be like, what? So now, as we've, again, been in 16 years, we have exclusive member rewards, discounts, hotel discounts, car rentals, and exclusive discounts from our vendors. Probably the most favorite member reward is our Office Depot, and it is a printing reward. You get 80% off. It is absolutely amazing. I've had some of my members come back and say, oh yeah, I got discount in printing, but then they also give me a bunch of other discounts. And I'm like, really? Good for you. Hasn't happened for me, but good for you. So, we developed NASNPRO as a give back to the industry. And that's where our mission statement has been, to just, be a resource, be affordable. Because when I first started it, I was married, but I had been a single parent. Then in 2012, I became a widow. So now I'm a single parent again. So my income has had this ebb and flow also. And again, by being consistent of being able to help the fellow estheticians and spa owners, that's where my heart is. I just want to help and be a good resource. So we've developed NASNPRO, and we have so check it out. Go to nasnpro.com. Membership is free. As a member, you also get a discount to our educational events. Our educational events are not free. They do tend to be, because as Julie knows, catering does cost.
Yeah, it does.
And it is a full day event of education where we bring in cosmetic scientists, leading manufacturers, security experts to discuss the current needs of our industry. And we are COA approved this year.
Which is amazing if, you know, for the states that need continuing education.
Right. And even if you don't, you get that certificate and you show it, you know, it's a great way to show it off on social media. And again, you know, you need to have content. It's great to be able to share with your clients, this is what I'm doing to stay current and educated for you.
Mm-hmm. I love it. So let's see, let me check the chat. Marianne has put the link to NASNPRO in the chat a couple times. So if you want to copy it into your browser, we'll also do a follow-up as we always do. And I'm going to recap with, you know, top 5 tips to keep your staff motivated moving forward now in this new world and new normal. Also, we'll include Denise's information and a link to NASNPRO so that you can learn more. Thank you so much, Denise, for joining us.
Absolutely.
We so appreciate it, and we appreciate everyone for joining our webinars each Wednesday. We're very happy, you know, to have Denise here because she shares our passion, which we do give as much as we can for free. And I want to help give you all the resources that you need to be able to start again and begin again and build the community, because we are all stronger together. And that's, you know, what we want you to connect with other spa owners, managers, with us. And, you know, even, you know, Denise and I have both been in the industry for 26 plus years, and we're learning something new from each other and our colleagues every single day. So keep learning.
And can I just do like maybe a little spoiler alert? So
yeah, do your spoiler.
Julie and I are talking about doing like almost like a crossover or a takeover event. She takes over NASNPRO and I take over Spa Hive. So we've got some really fun things that we're talking about collaborating. So thank you, Julie, for allowing me to speak today to your community. And let's just become neighbors and get to know each other, help each other out.
Thank you, Denise, and thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll see you Thursday morning at 10:30 in the coffee chat, and again next Monday at 3 o'clock for a continuation of our webinar series. Have a great Monday. Bye.